There is something sitting in your kitchen right now that researchers have just found may be one of the most powerful brain protective habits you already have: your morning cup of coffee. For years you may have been told to cut back. Too much caffeine, not good for the heart. Try herbal tea instead. But a major long-term study published just this week looked at hundreds of thousands of adults and found something that is genuinely changing how scientists think about dementia prevention. Drinking 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day was linked to a much lower risk of dementia. Researchers found that caffeine may help keep brain cells active while reducing inflammation and harmful processes in the brain. And the numbers were not small. The effect was meaningful, consistent, and it appeared most strongly in adults under 75. Which means if you are watching this right now and you are in your 60s or early 70s, you are in the window where this protective effect appears to be at its most powerful. Today, we are going to explain what the research actually found, what coffee is doing inside the brain, what the limits of this research are, because we always want to be honest with you, and what it means for you personally. Stay until the end, because we are also going to tell you something that surprised the researchers themselves, something about what coffee does to one specific harmful protein that accumulates in the brains of people with Alzheimer's. First, let us understand what this study actually looked at. This was not a small study. This was a large long-term research project that followed people over many years, tracking their daily habits and then monitoring whether they developed dementia. The researchers specifically looked at coffee consumption, not energy drinks, not caffeine pills, coffee specifically. And after adjusting for other factors, age, weight, smoking, physical activity, education, the association between moderate coffee drinking and reduced dementia risk remained consistent. 2 to 3 cups a day appeared to be the range with the strongest protective association. Below that, the effect was smaller but still present. Above that, the benefit began to plateau, and in some studies at very high intake, there were signs the benefit reduced. 2 to 3 cups, not a supercharged amount, just a regular morning habit that millions of seniors already have. Now let us understand why this might be happening inside the brain. Coffee contains several compounds that interact with the brain. The most well-known is caffeine. But coffee also contains antioxidants, compounds that fight the kind of cellular damage that contributes to brain aging. Here is what caffeine specifically does in the brain that researchers think may be protective. Your brain has a system for clearing waste. During sleep, particularly the brain's glymphatic system, a kind of internal cleaning network, flushes out cellular waste products that accumulate during the day. One of those waste products is a protein called amyloid beta. The buildup of amyloid beta in the brain is one of the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. It accumulates in plaques that disrupt communication between brain cells. Caffeine appears to interact with specific receptors in the brain called adenosine receptors. Adenosine is a chemical that builds up during waking hours and makes you feel sleepy. Caffeine blocks these receptors, which is why it keeps you alert. But those same adenosine receptors are also involved in the inflammatory processes that accelerate amyloid buildup in the brain. When caffeine blocks these receptors, it appears to also reduce some of the neuroinflammation that drives amyloid accumulation. The brain's environment becomes less hospitable to the kind of damage that leads to Alzheimer's. This is not a cure. This is not protection against all forms of dementia, and the research is association-based, meaning it shows a relationship between coffee and reduced dementia risk, but cannot prove with certainty that coffee is the cause of that reduction. But the biological mechanism is plausible. The research is large and replicated across multiple studies, and it is consistent with other research showing that caffeine has genuinely protective effects on brain cell survival in laboratory conditions. The antioxidants in coffee matter too. Coffee is actually one of the largest single sources of dietary antioxidants in the typical Western diet. Antioxidants neutralize free radicals, unstable molecules that damage cells, including brain cells. The brain is particularly vulnerable to oxidative damage because it is metabolically very active and uses a large proportion of the body's oxygen. The polyphenols in coffee, a type of antioxidant, have been shown in laboratory studies to reduce inflammation in brain tissue, support the survival of neurons, and reduce some of the processes that contribute to cognitive decline. So the protective effect of coffee on the brain appears to come from 2 directions simultaneously: the caffeine, reducing neuroinflammation through the adenosine pathway, and the antioxidants providing more general protection against cellular damage. What about the concerns about coffee and the heart? This is the question most seniors who have been told to moderate their coffee intake will immediately ask. And it is a fair question that deserves an honest answer. For most healthy adults, moderate coffee consumption, 2 to 3 cups a day, does not appear to significantly harm cardiovascular health, and in some research is associated with modest cardiovascular benefits. However, there are specific situations where limiting coffee is genuinely advisable. If you have an irregular heart rhythm, particularly atrial fibrillation, caffeine can trigger or worsen episodes in some individuals. This is individual and varies considerably. Some people with AFib tolerate coffee well. Others find it clearly worsens their rhythm. This needs to be assessed personally and discussed with your doctor. If you have severe reflux or a stomach ulcer, coffee can worsen symptoms. If caffeine significantly disrupts your sleep, which matters enormously for brain health, then the brain protective benefit of coffee may be partially offset by the brain-harming effect of poor sleep. The research on dementia protection is based on moderate consumption and does not suggest that drinking 6 cups a day is 6 times more beneficial. 2 to 3 cups appears to be the range where the positive associations are strongest. If you are already drinking 1 or 2 cups a day, this research suggests you have no reason to reduce that. If you have been told to eliminate coffee entirely for reasons unrelated to the conditions above, it may be worth revisiting that guidance with your doctor in light of the emerging evidence. What if you do not drink coffee? This is important because we do not want anyone to feel that they are now at a disadvantage if coffee is not part of their life. The research on coffee and dementia is encouraging, but it does not mean that people who do not drink coffee will inevitably develop dementia, or that coffee is the only or even the most important factor. The same research consistently shows that the other most powerful factors associated with reduced dementia risk are physical activity, particularly regular walking and resistance exercise, good quality sleep, social connection and mental engagement, and management of cardiovascular risk factors like blood pressure and blood sugar. Coffee appears to be one piece of a much larger picture, a beneficial piece, but not an irreplaceable one. If you do not tolerate coffee or simply do not enjoy it, the other protective factors on that list are available to you and are arguably even more powerful. And green tea, which also contains caffeine alongside its own distinct antioxidant compounds, has shown similar if somewhat weaker associations with cognitive protection in other research. The question we know seniors watching this are asking, is it too late? If I am already 70 or 75 and I have been drinking coffee for decades, am I already protected? And if I only drink 1 cup or none, have I missed the window? The honest answer is that the brain responds to protective factors at any age. The research does not suggest that the brain becomes immune to the benefits of anti-inflammatory habits after a certain point. The evidence on physical activity shows that people who begin exercising in their 70s still show brain benefits. The evidence on social connection shows the same. The best evidence suggests that what you do now, today, and in the months and years ahead, continues to influence the rate at which the brain ages. Drinking 2 cups of coffee a day is not going to reverse existing damage, but it may slow the rate of new damage, and slowing the rate of decline, even modestly, translates into meaningful differences in function over years and decades. Here is the practical summary. If you enjoy coffee and you have no specific medical reason to avoid it, 2 to 3 cups a day appears to be associated with meaningful brain protective benefits. Enjoy them without guilt. If you have medical reasons to limit caffeine, discuss the specific evidence with your doctor. The question is not whether you should drink coffee despite your doctor's advice. It is whether the advice to eliminate coffee is still appropriate given the current evidence. That is a fair and legitimate conversation to have. If you do not drink coffee, focus your energy on the other powerful brain protective factors: exercise, sleep, connection, blood pressure management. And regardless of your coffee habits, the most important brain protection remains what it has always been: moving your body, sleeping well, staying connected to other people, and keeping your blood pressure and blood sugar well managed. Coffee may be part of the picture, a genuinely interesting and encouraging part, but it is not the whole picture. Today we covered what the new research on coffee and dementia actually found, what caffeine and the antioxidants in coffee are doing inside the brain, what the genuine limits and caveats of the research are, and what it means practically for seniors right now. Share this with someone who has been feeling guilty about their morning coffee for years. They can pour it with a little more confidence now. Subscribe for a new, simple, honest health video every week, made just for you. We will see you next time.